Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Ted, hanging out with the full contingent today.
Dave.
Ryan.
Nate.
And today we got a GM 911 from Jackson Furlong. He's got a goblin sorcerer in his game, and he's revised the charisma checks based off of how much RP the player character is doing and who the actual target is, to kind of change things up and make it, you know, it fit more to what's actually going on.
Like target, say, are they a hardened mercenary or like a commoner? You know, like
The circumstances.
But
I feel like the real gist of this DM 911 is I have an unreasonable player. How do I make them reasonable?
So the two situations that he presents is, you know, both again with his goblin sorcerer, and he's trying to intimidate hardened mercenaries, and he's trying to persuade a smith to make him a masterwork item for free. And the only RP he does, you know, is he says, you know, to the mercenaries, I walk up and I intimidate them. And then to the smith is like, oh well, you know, you can make this item, and you know, I'll get to wield it, and you'll have the advantage of being able to have made something really awesome.
So yeah, so that doesn't really work. There is one big thing to look at too, is like, how are goblins perceived in your world? Because
or little thing to look at, because they're like 3 foot, they're 3'5". Really yeah.
So, you know, I find there's two different approaches. One is like goblins and kobolds are nuisance monsters that nobody cares about, and they're not considered threats
by themselves, individually.
Yeah. Or, you know, or you're going to go more with a Tolkien-esque, you know, maybe a grittier fantasy where goblins are the things of nightmares.
And people are genuinely terrified of them. Yeah.
Yes, they're going to come, they're going to steal your baby, they're going to eat it. That kind of deal. So, you know, how is it being viewed? And, you know, if it's the latter instead of the former, then the thing is, well, actually, the goblin should be getting hassled for just trying to go into town.
Just for existing.
Yeah, pretty much, you know. So if
he's just like, can I live? Can I be a goblin?
If he's going to be scary, and he wants to be treated as scary, then he should be discriminated against all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Darn greenskins.
The other thing is that the DM is like, oh well, you're 3.5 foot tall. No one's going to be intimidated by that. And I feel like that shouldn't be anything to take away from that, because a presence, thus, you know, the actual, you know, charisma
sorcerer
ability
thing,
like that's going to weigh far more heavier than his actual size. And whether it's an inspiring presence, an intimidating presence, you know, people with high charisma, they have presence. You have somebody that walks into a room and they just have a look on their face, whether they're trying or not. People can be scared of them regardless of their size.
Or even like celebrities. Like, people notice celebrities. Like, celebrities have a presence. Like, you know, like people like actors and stuff like that, like well-regarded actors, like when you walk into a room, like they affect the room, you know? And like, so I could imagine a sorcerer almost to be that level as well.
And I would agree. And if this guy is statted properly, he's going to have a high charisma. So therefore, he should be able to, regardless of size, be able to stare someone down, especially if it's something that he's focused on. If he's trained in intimidation and persuasion, then, you know, these are going to be, you know, his best skill rolls. Yeah. But on the other side of it, if you're modifying the system based on RP, you know, you can walk up to him and it's like, all right, well, I'm not a talker. I'm going to stare the guy down. Even if you're 3.5 foot tall, you stare at someone long enough, they're going to be, you know, a little off put, especially if you're essentially a monstrous humanoid.
Well, and intimidation, though, could work the other way. Like, they feel threatened. They're going to attack you. Like, that could be the other end. Even if you're successful. You have him so scared that he thinks that your existence is threatening to him, he's going to attack you right now.
And that's...
He's going to push you over because you're only 3 foot tall.
Yeah. And goblins have big heads, so he's going to be like Stargrim. Like, it's like a big mascot, like, type of thing.
Yeah. So I have to, you know, you have to look at it from
both sides.
Both sides. In my opinion, on the Smith angle, dude, the player's just jacked. I'm sorry, man, but you can't walk in and say that, you know, I want something for free.
Give it to me.
Give it to me.
Persuasion is not magic.
You know, yeah, you're not going to be able to persuade someone and have someone be happy that they get to have made something
for like a year or more.
Like that just doesn't make sense. Like, if Ryan and I were discussing this off camera, and Ryan brought up like hey, I'm actually somewhat known here, and I plan on doing great things. So if you make this thing for me, your name's going to go down in legend with me because you made the weapon that slew the whatever.
Maybe there would be like a maker seal in the pommel or whatever. It would be a weapon of history and legend.
So I doubled down on that, and I said, well, that's just kind of more deception than persuasion. So I said he'd have to sow rumors ahead of time so that when he said his name, like expecting the blacksmith to know who he is, because the blacksmith's probably heard about him throughout the tavern talking.
If he did the work.
But
if he did the work ahead of time.
But all of that is role playing and setting up the scene. And if you don't do that, if you just walk in and say, "Yeah, give it to me for free," like it's not gonna work.
Go to Home Depot and do that. Like, just be like, look,
get your most charismatic friend to go in the Home Depot.
I really need this really nice lumber to make this really cool thing, and like, you get the honor of having like sourced and gotten that for me.
I have a perfect example for this. Now, believe this has actually happened. I've worked pumping gas, overnight before, and you'll be there, and the hot drunk chick will show up, and she'll whip out her tatas and be like, expecting free gas, and I'm like, that's $5. It doesn't matter. You still got to pay your way.
I feel like I need to work nights pumping gas now.
That's far and few between, but every once in a
while,
now,
that was before smartphones. So now that memory could last a lifetime.
It does not make up for the belligerent drunk dudes that you're going to get as well.
Yeah, let's not get into that.
Let's not clarify this.
So in that aspect, I'm sorry. I as a DM, I don't care how good of a persuasion roll you have on it. If you're not going to RP, if you're not going to do anything, you're not going to convince someone to make you something for free.
Hey, man, you get nothing for nothing if that's what you do.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, and like with intimidation, save hardened mercenaries and stuff. If it's the kind of world where maybe you and 30 other of you are a threat, but otherwise you're just another head on my pike.
How about like, okay, he's a goblin sorcerer. Why not use prestidigitation or mage hand, or use your
magic stuff happen,
or friends? I mean, if you don't care what they think
you're
about
trying
later.
to intimidate them, though.
It's charisma-based checks, I thought.
Persuasion?
He said friends. The spell friends is like to make them friendly.
I thought it just gave you charisma.
I can't use casting friends on someone and be like, "Oh, you're so scared of me now." They're like, but I want to hug you. I don't know.
Well,
okay. So the word friends, it's really like,
if you're going to threaten violence, like, you have to threaten it in a way that seems realistic. So I'm sorry, like, I'm probably not going to be afraid of a midget, to be honest with you, or little folk. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
You ever see Elf? Peter Dinklage and Elf?
Yeah, that's true.
But if he had glowing eyes and was breathing smoke, I mean,
that's completely different.
I back up.
It's hard to do a fantasy analogy to real life because we don't actually have goblins. But I'm sorry, someone that stands up to my belly button, I'm be like, push you over. Like, what are you gonna do?
Well, and also too, like, if you're gonna use intimidation, like, you have to level some decent threats. Like, talk about the things that your people do, like, cooking and eating people, or just sometimes having them raw. Like, use the horrible.
I sharpened my teeth this morning.
Yeah.
If you're like, look, if you don't back down, buddy, I'm going to knock you out. I'm going to punch you right in the nose. And you're looking at him like, you can't even reach. They're going to get the stool. look, yo, Horace, I think he's moving for the stool. I think we better get out of here. Look, what do we do? I don't know. Take a step back off to move the stool again. So the threat has to be realistic. It can't just be, I'm a goblin sorcerer, fear me. But now if you're like, I'm a goblin sorcerer, and you use minor illusion and prestidigitation, and like Nate said, your eyes are glowing red and smoke's coming out of your nose, and things are shaking around you. Yeah, you know what? That's going to have an effect on somebody. But just going, "Rawr, I'm a goblin," be like, whatever, dude. Rawr. I'm a minion.
All of that being said, technically that's what's supposed to happen when you roll the dice and you say I'm intimidating somebody. Yeah. But it's not, it's terrible RP.
I don't accept I'm intimidating them. Like,
At the
I'll
very
say,
least,
what are you doing? You know?
At the very least, that's it. At the very least, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You don't have to, even if you're not comfortable with getting into character and role playing it, at least third person and say what your character does.
You know, like give me at like a sentence minimum. You know, like if nothing can come to your word, I threaten them. You know, all right, well that's something for me to work with. You know, and you know, help coach the player. Get some more information out of them. Don't make it take too long. You don't want the rest of the players getting bored at the table because, you know, you're trying to coach this guy. But it's like, okay, well, you threaten him. Are you drawing a weapon? Are you casting spells? Are you, you know, telling him that you're going to come after his family? You know, like, what are you doing to try and make you be threatening?
Here's a quick fix, right?
Yeah, you could talk about like how delicious their children would taste. You know,
Quick
if you wanted to go
fix.
Hannibal Lecter for
Talk to
intimidation.
your player and tell him what your expectations are for a credible threat for intimidating someone so that he can use them in his toolbox in the game. He can rework it however he wants, but, you know, be realistic. Like, it's different if you're playing a half-orc barbarian who's nearly 7 foot tall and has, you know, an 18 strength. You know what? He can look down at the person, glower, cross his arms, make his biceps and chest bulge, and you know, that's probably enough. You're a goblin. You're 3 foot
Little
tall.
people have to be creative in the way they do it. Is really the thing. Like, you have to come up with ways of like messing with people's mind because you're smaller and you're not as physically mighty. So you have to figure out what's, you know, the ways to make yourself come across as threatening.
Mage hand their tankard of ale and dump it over their head or something. At
Yeah.
least, you know, be creative. There's ways to do this.
All right, so what other advice do you guys have out there for this GM 911? Put it in the comments below. While you're doing that, feel free to click like, share, even subscribe.
If you like funny D&D and nerdy memes, hang out on Facebook.
Or you can check us out on nerdarchy.com.
I'd like to thank Mike Gold for putting up a lot of good suggestions for him in the comment where it actually got started. So I just wanted to say that before.
Hey, yeah, thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Till next time,
Stay nerdy.